The Ravens are in a moment of real frustration, and it's not just the results on the scoreboard. It's the way things have unfolded week after week, particularly on the offensive line, where the struggles have become impossible to ignore. Daniel Fowl has been at the center of this storm. And while the conversation around him used to focus on potential and hope, the reality has shifted dramatically. It's clear at this point that the issues on the line aren't just a reflection of his abilities, they've become a reflection of the decisions being made by the coaching staff. Watching the game, whether live, through film study, or even just highlights, it's impossible not to see the consistent mistakes that keep surfacing. Plays go awry in ways that leave fans and analysts alike shaking their heads, wondering how a player with this track record continues to be put in the lineup. The questions no longer target Fowl alone. They extend directly to John Harbaugh and his coaching team. What exactly is being observed behind the scenes that convinces them to keep deploying him, knowing full well the execution lapses are repeated week after week? This isn't about one bad play or a fluke game, it's a pattern. And the pattern is undeniable. Watching Fowl struggle with fundamentals, being beaten repeatedly by defenders who shouldn't have the advantage, creates a ripple effect across the offense. Lamar Jackson, who has carried this team through some of its toughest moments, has been visibly frustrated, admitting in press conferences that his irritation is through the roof, and it's not just about a single interaction or moment. It's the accumulation of mistakes, the constant pressure, the lack of protection that turns routine snaps into high-stress situations. When a cornerback, considerably smaller and lighter, can beat him consistently on pass rushes, it sends a clear message about mismatches that the coaching staff seems unwilling or unable to address. The frustration on the sideline becomes palpable because this isn't new, it's been developing for months, if not longer. And yet the solution remains elusive. The rotation with Emory Jones and Andrew Voorhees hasn't solved the problem. While Jones offers some fresh options and Voorhees has his moments, it's clear that simply shuffling players hasn't addressed the root of the struggles. The offensive line needs more than temporary fixes or partial adjustments. It needs a full-scale reevaluation, a willingness to make bold moves that may be uncomfortable, but are necessary to protect the quarterback and stabilize the run game. The reality is stark. Fowl has proven to be inconsistent and underperforming in critical areas like pass protection and run blocking. According to grading metrics, his performance has been the lowest among the Ravens' offensive linemen, highlighting the urgent need for change. When you consistently see your offensive line falter in both protecting Lamar and opening lanes for the running game, it's clear the team's foundational structure is at risk. Beyond the individual grades, the bigger concern is the cumulative effect on the offense as a whole. The Ravens have a roster with strong potential, but that potential is being compromised by repeated failures in key positions. The offensive line's inability to perform consistently creates a domino effect, exposing the quarterback to pressures that lead to turnovers, sacks, and missed opportunities. The frustration isn't limited to coaches or analysts. Players feel it on the field. Lamar's interactions during games reflect the tension and urgency of needing support up front. When decisions go uncorrected, it magnifies every mistake, every blown assignment, and every missed assignment turns into a glaring problem. Fans have been vocal, long aware of these struggles, and what was once a conversation about development and patience has now evolved into a discussion about accountability and structural change. Part of the challenge lies in the Ravens' roster strategy. Over recent seasons, investments have been heavily weighted toward the secondary, while the guard positions have seen minimal attention and development. The draft selections and acquisitions haven't consistently addressed the glaring weaknesses on the line, and the pattern continues to haunt the team. Every week, games slip away due to preventable mistakes, and it's difficult to ignore the strategic choices that contributed to this state of affairs. There's a growing sense that the organization must shift its philosophy, balancing talent acquisition and development across all positions, rather than prioritizing only certain areas. Without this balance, the offensive line continues to struggle, and with it, the team's ability to execute in high-pressure moments falters. The recent losses to division rivals have highlighted just how critical these issues are. It's not simply about individual blame, it's about the cumulative impact of poor execution, coaching decisions, and roster management. While no single player can shoulder all the responsibility, the reality is that the line's performance directly affects the offense's potential. Each game serves as a case study in what happens when protection fails and timing is disrupted. The missed blocks, the inability to reach the right positions, The repeated pressure on the quarterback. These are not isolated incidents. They are patterns that reveal structural deficiencies and highlight the need for significant change. Fans, analysts, and players alike are all witnessing the same narrative unfold. The offensive line has become a persistent vulnerability, and the solutions attempted thus far have been inadequate. Coaching decisions remain central to the conversation. It's not just about deploying a player. It's about recognizing patterns, anticipating challenges, and making the tough calls that can redefine a season. The continued reliance on foul despite repeated struggles underscores a broader issue. When do the consequences of inaction outweigh the risk of experimentation? The conversation has moved beyond individual performance to organizational accountability. The offensive line needs comprehensive evaluation, from the techniques being taught to the personnel being fielded. Without bold action, the same issues will persist, and games that should be competitive will slip away, determined not by talent or effort, but by structural weaknesses that have been allowed to fester. At the same time, the team faces external pressures and unpredictable variables, such as officiating. While referees had an undeniable impact in recent games, the outcome cannot rest solely on those calls. Baltimore's performance on the field must be sufficient to withstand such challenges. Turnovers, missed assignments, and breakdowns in protection have consistently left the team vulnerable, and relying on external factors to compensate is neither sustainable nor realistic. The combination of inconsistent offensive line play and critical game time errors amplifies frustration at all levels. From players to coaches to fans, it's an environment where patience wears thin, and the urgency for decisive action becomes increasingly critical. Looking at the broader picture, the Ravens are at a crossroads. The decisions made regarding the offensive line will shape not just the remainder of the season, but potentially the strategic direction for years to come. The experiments attempted with players like foul have reached a point where the margin for error has disappeared. Fans have endured months of uncertainty, and while loyalty remains strong, the patience for repeated mistakes is dwindling. The team's ability to protect the quarterback, establish the run game, and compete against top-level opponents is compromised by an offensive line that has failed to meet expectations. Bold moves are no longer optional. They are necessary to restore competitiveness and confidence within the team. It's also about momentum and psychology. Each game where mistakes pile up, where protection falters, it chips away at morale and trust. Players like Lamar Jackson, whose talent and leadership are unquestionable, must operate in an environment where mistakes are minimized, not magnified. The offensive line struggles create distractions, force hurried decisions, and undermine the rhythm of the game as the season progresses. These repeated failures accumulate, creating a narrative that becomes harder to reverse. The Ravens' offensive line situation is no longer just a technical or tactical issue. It has become a cultural and psychological challenge, demanding immediate attention and decisive action to prevent further erosion of performance and confidence. As we dive into the fallout from the Ravens' latest game, it's impossible to ignore the role officiating played in the outcome, but it's equally impossible to let that become the main storyline. Yes, there were calls that sparked outrage, confusion, and heated reactions from players and fans alike, but the reality is that the Ravens themselves left too much room for error. It's one thing to have a questionable ruling. It's another to have a team consistently underperforming to the point where those moments become decisive. In the game against the Steelers, there were a handful of plays that will be dissected for days, and while many of them will be remembered for the controversy they created, they also serve as a mirror reflecting Baltimore's inability to control the narrative on the field. Isaiah Likely's end zone touchdown, which was overturned on a highly debatable call, immediately became the most talked about moment, and the frustration surrounding it is understandable. Watching a player extend the ball, make a legitimate football move, and still see the play ruled incomplete leaves fans scratching their heads, wondering how this could stand in real time. The mechanics of officiating in such moments can feel arbitrary, and the human element adds a level of unpredictability that is difficult to navigate, even for professional athletes. Then there were other plays, like the Aaron Rodgers interception scenario, where the determination of possession and down by contact created a ripple effect that ultimately shifted momentum in the Steelers' favor. On another critical sequence, a penalty was called for unnecessary roughness on Travis Jones, giving the Steelers an automatic first down and paving the way for a touchdown on the next play. Each of these moments is dissected endlessly by fans, analysts, and even players, highlighting the thin margin between success and failure in the NFL. Adree Hopkins, known for speaking his mind, initially called out the officiating on social media, questioning the logic behind what constitutes a completed touchdown, while that tweet was later deleted. It reflected a sentiment shared widely among observers. The rules can be interpreted in ways that feel inconsistent, leaving teams frustrated and players second-guessing critical moments of execution. Despite all the controversy, the truth remains that Baltimore could not rely solely on officials to carry them. The team's performance was insufficient to overcome even minor adversities. Missed blocks, miscommunications, and repeated lapses in execution compounded the problems that surfaced in officiating decisions. This is a team that has shown flashes of excellence but cannot consistently put it all together, especially against high-stakes opponents like division rivals. Watching the game unfold, it became painfully clear that the Ravens' offensive line, already a point of concern, was directly responsible for putting Lamar Jackson under relentless pressure. Each sack, hurried throw, and missed assignment created opportunities for the opposition to capitalize. No amount of officiating controversy can mask the systemic flaws that have plagued the team for weeks. The pattern of frustration extends beyond one game. Fans have seen these moments accumulate over months and, for some, over an entire season or more. The issues with the offensive line, combined with occasional miscommunications and errors across the roster, have turned what should have been winnable games into lessons in how quickly a season can slip away. The Ravens' struggles in high-pressure situations reveal the delicate balance between talent, preparation, and decision-making. It's not enough to have star players or explosive plays. Execution must be consistent, particularly in positions as critical as the offensive line. The inability to protect the quarterback or sustain drives has tangible consequences, from turnovers to missed scoring opportunities, and ultimately, 2 losses in games where the margin is already razor-thin. Beyond the tactical failures, there's a psychological and cultural dimension to the Ravens' challenges. Watching players like Lamar Jackson navigate the field with constant pressure, both physically and mentally, exposes cracks in team cohesion and preparation. The frustration seen on the sideline, the interactions between players and coaches, and the visible exasperation during post-game interviews all paint a picture of a team struggling to maintain focus and composure in high-stakes situations. Every mistake, every breakdown, amplifies stress and undermines confidence, creating an environment where even minor officiating errors are magnified in significance. This is not a team lacking heart or effort. It is a team hampered by systemic issues that have been allowed to persist. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. Shockwaves are reverberating through the NFL as rumors swirl that the Baltimore Ravens have made a move that could reshape the league's defensive landscape. Sources close to the team suggest that the Ravens have successfully secured SAUCE Gardner, one of the most talked about defensive talents in recent memory, as the new centerpiece of their defense. If true, this signing would instantly catapult Baltimore into the conversation for having one of the most formidable defensive units in the league. For weeks, whispers circulated about Gardner's potential next destination, with analysts debating whether his talent would land him with a perennial contender or a team on the rise. Baltimore, known for its storied defensive tradition and knack for cultivating defensive stars, appears to have beaten out several suitors in what insiders are calling a quiet but bold move. The buzz is that the organization sees Gardner not just as a cornerback, but as a defensive cornerstone capable of elevating the entire unit. Fans and pundits alike are already speculating on how Gardner will fit into the Ravens' defensive schemes. Known for his speed, instincts, and lockdown coverage, he brings a rare combination of agility and football IQ that can disrupt even the most high-powered offenses. Some are saying that his arrival could free up other players to take more aggressive roles, potentially transforming Baltimore into a nightmare matchup for opposing quarterbacks. The atmosphere around the league is electric, with social media buzzing as fans react to what could be the signing of the season. Some skeptics question whether Baltimore's defensive system will maximize Gardner's unique skill set, while others are already drawing comparisons to legendary Ravens defenders who have defined eras. One thing is certain, the Ravens are sending a message that they are serious about reclaiming their spot among the NFL elite. While the deal has not been officially confirmed, The rumor alone has ignited a frenzy, with insiders dropping hints of behind-the-scenes negotiations that involved multiple teams and a tense bidding war. If Gardner does indeed don the Ravens uniform, the team's defensive identity could shift overnight, potentially altering the balance of power in the AFC. The football world is watching closely, waiting for the official word, but for now, the speculation is enough to keep fans, analysts, and rivals on high alert. One thing's for sure if this rumor is true. The Ravens just pulled off a move that will dominate headlines for weeks, and SAUCE Gardner may have just become the most electrifying name in Baltimore. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.